Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So Liverpool have just drawn 0-0 with Bury in a game that was, let's be honest, a bit of a damp squib at the end of the day. Certainly after, the excitement of the game against Chester and the first half, I think definitely against Tranmere as well. It was a little bit disappointing to just see what I think was a general lack of cohesion from the side, and I think that's what you can essentially put the result down to today. I think whenever I've spoken about how Liverpool have played well in pre-season, when we've looked at our most exciting and I've really liked the players that I've seen, it's all been about, quick, sharp, incisive passing. It's been about intelligent movement and an understanding between all the players of what their role is and what the other players are doing on the pitch as well. And I just felt like that was missing through the whole 90 minutes today. And while I think, you can put a little bit of it down to the lack of cohesion that comes through mixing the players around and kind of, chucking starting 11s together that have never really played together. At the end of the day, these are all lads playing the same system. So it's not necessarily just an excuse to say, oh, it's a pre-season friendly, they're playing in random starting 11s. So you can't just let them get away with it. So I am still a little bit disappointed. I think the players, it does need to be almost automatic that they all know each other's roles. So if they are playing central defensive midfield, they don't have to think, oh, that's Lallana there, I know what Lallana does. They just think, this is my role. The players in front of me are going to be doing this thing in particular, and so I can expect them to do that and I can play to those strengths. So it was a little bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, it is a pre-season friendly. Things will get better, and obviously there are still plenty of players to come back over these pre-season campaigns. So looking at the individual players then, in the first half, we had Loris Karius in goal, and for the first 15 minutes of the second half as well. He didn't really have that much to do, which was disappointing, because I would have liked to see him, get tested, make a few saves, be put under the kind of pressure that he did get against Tranmere in the second half. Unfortunately, he didn't get that in this game. However, he did get the ball passed to him a lot, which I feel like maybe is perhaps something that the manager has told the players to do, just to put him under a little bit more pressure and see how he responds. Because when you watch that game, you notice that whenever the ball went to him, the crowd were all going, they were waiting to see what he was doing. They were almost hoping for an error. Certainly the Bury fans, I think, were hoping for something to write home about almost with a Loris Karius error or something like that. So I think it's just important that he gets on the ball as much as possible and he gets into a state where he is more comfortable receiving the ball and being put under pressure and being the centre of attention, because that's what feels like it's been the problem for him so far in this pre-season. And I reckon that might even be why he makes that mistake against Tranmere. So hopefully in future, in the later pre-season games, we'll get to see him actually make some saves. We'll see him get put under sustained pressure as well, where people are going at him, people are crossing the ball into the box, taking shots at him and stuff like that. But for now, an okay performance, but the jury is still out on Loris Karius after that, I think it's fair to say. On to the defenders, I thought Van Dijk making his first start was fantastic. You know the score. The guy is majestic. He's a fantastic footballer. You don't really need to talk about him because you just get what you're expecting with Virgil van Dijk. I thought Joel Matip next to him was unspectacular, to be perfectly honest. I think given that this pre-season is essentially his audition to take Dejan Lovren's place in the side, because with Lovren coming back late from the World Cup, being involved in the final and having that 3-week holiday afterwards, Matip will probably even get an opportunity to play in the first couple of Premier League games of the season. So he needs to take that and he needs to prove that he's better than Lovren. And I just thought there wasn't any of that today. He makes a couple of basic errors. There's a few misplaced passes that you're just thinking, why are you doing that? Because you're under no pressure. So far, so not good from Joel Matip, but again, there'll be plenty more opportunities and the real test will come in those games in the US up against some proper big team opposition. But so far, yeah, not so great. I thought Moreno was actually pretty good up until he hospital passes Loris Karius late on in that first half. He completely shanks a pass at Karius that plays a Bury player through that he really just doesn't need to do. There's no pressure on him to do that, and it puts needless pressure on Loris Karius as well. But apart from that, I thought getting forward, his decision making looks like it's actually improved. He doesn't necessarily look like a headless chicken as he comes into the box. He makes the right kind of movement. He links up with the players around him as well, which is good. That's the kind of thing that Andrew Robertson has been commended for. And when he gets into the box, the balls that he plays in, chipping it in or driving it in or pulling it back or anything like that, he does tend to make the right decision. So I thought that was promising from Alberto Moreno. Obviously, he's never going to usurp Andrew Robertson now, because Robertson is just fantastic and is also the complete package as both a defensive and an attacking right back. But it was good to see that from someone who will almost definitely be Liverpool's left back this season. And then Nathaniel Klein, I think just doesn't offer enough going forward. I said in the first game against Chester that he was showing promising signs. He was getting into the right position positions, making the right kind of runs, and it was only really his final ball that was missing. But in this game, that was just totally missing from Nathaniel Clyne's game, and I thought he doesn't look for runs, he doesn't get his head up enough, and he doesn't look far enough forward. He always kind of picks the easiest pass, whereas it's a midfielder coming towards him and asking to play it to feet, or whether it's the centre-back next to him. He's never doing anything ambitious, and I think in a Jurgen Klopp side, there's just more expected of the fullback, so a little bit disappointing from Nathaniel Clyne. Hopefully he can show a little bit more between now and the end of pre-season, because he will get a lot of opportunities while we wait for Trent Alexander-Arnold to return from the World Cup. And then in the midfield, I thought Fabinho was the shining light of that first half, to be honest. He's getting better and better every single game. He looks more and more up for it, he looks fitter, he looks more focused, and he looks faster in general with the speed at which he plays the game. It's nice to see him flying into tackles as well. I think it does look like he might pick up a few bookings during the Premier League campaign. Before, when he signed, he did say that he wasn't expecting to get booked as much because of the differences between the game in England and the game on the European stage. But I do get the feeling that he might get pulled up for a few fouls this year just because of the way he tackles and the way that he flies in. But I think that's still an important thing for Liverpool. We do need someone in midfield who's going to leave a little bit on the opponent and keep that physical side to our game. And like I said, the speed with which he enforces it and stuff like that, and the composure that he shows on the ball as well. He passes it nicely. He passes it quickly as well. He doesn't dawdle on it, which is important when you're that far back on the pitch, that you don't just, because you've got so much space and because there's less pressure on you, there's no one sort of hounding you down to get the ball off you. That doesn't mean you should just be tip-tapping it around and dribbling and waiting to find the perfect pass. You should be moving the ball quickly and looking to get attacks going. So it was positive to see that from Fabinho. You then got midfielder who just, showed his usual energy. I think he's going to be a really useful squad player for Liverpool this season. I can't really see him starting regularly in midfield, although I would have said that towards the back end of last season, and he became a crucial player for Liverpool towards the end of that Champions League run. But like I said, usual energy, flying into tackles as well, putting pressure on the opposition, and would have just liked to have seen a little bit more from him in terms of creativity going forward. Rounding off the midfield, you got Curtis Jones, who I thought showed absolutely fantastic technique. His movement and the way he passes the ball and the way he dribbles it round as well and controls it, to be honest, is actually of a standard befitting of the first team. Those parts of his game are actually there. He looks ready to play in first team competitive matches for Liverpool there. I think the one thing that is missing is his final ball, is his decision making when he gets right up towards the box. And I think as a midfield player, we want him to really be playing almost as a withdrawn 10, or as quite a dynamic forward looking box to box midfielder like a number 8, almost like Naby Keita is. So I think he just needs to show a little bit more when it comes to providing service for those players in front of him. We saw it in the first game against Chester, where he plays a fantastic ball towards Harry Wilson for that second goal over the top of the Chester defence. And it's just something that I'd like to see a little bit more. Like I say, his movement getting into the box is really good. He takes up all the right positions, and if he can just pick out his teammates a little bit better in those final ball situations, then he could be a real prospect for Liverpool. And then the forwards, Origi, useless, to be perfectly honest. I don't like to be harsh on players, but he just looks rubbish. Everything he's done in pre-season has basically vindicated anyone who thought he wasn't good enough for Liverpool in the first place and was horrified by the performances that he put in for Wolfsburg. He misses another big chance where he's one-on-one. Every single time he gets into those situations, he always tries to open his body up and bend it into the far corner. It's completely telegraphed to goalkeepers, so they always know where it's going. He doesn't bend it far enough into the corner anyway, so it almost invariably gets saved. And he also makes so many poor decisions on the ball as well. It's not just in those one-on-ones with goalkeepers. When he's trying to run the channels, when he's trying to stretch defences and stuff like that, he doesn't actually cause many problems, because it's not like he's going to take someone on and get round them or anything like that, or play an intelligent pass into someone making an overlapping run. He always just wastes those opportunities, and it's wasteful to have him in the Liverpool team. And like I've said before, if he's not scoring goals, you might as well have 10 men on the pitch, because Divock Origi offers absolutely nothing else to the side at the moment. So yeah, really disappointing. I think the clock really is ticking on his Liverpool career at the moment, and personally, I cannot see him reviving it, which is a little bit of a shame given the promise he showed earlier on in his Liverpool career. I thought Sturridge was all right. He's not quite at the level that he was against Chester. Again, getting into the right positions and showing a little bit of superior technique. His passing is all right. Like I said, he was making the right runs, getting into the right positions to receive the ball and stuff like that. but there just wasn't anything special. There wasn't the kind of stuff that we saw in that game against Chester where he was making smart passes with the outside of his boot and stuff like that. He doesn't hit any nice shots from range like he did against Chester. He obviously doesn't get a goal as well, which isn't just his fault. I thought the service wasn't amazing in that game, and obviously the play of Origi next to him wasn't fantastic. But yeah, I just feel like ever since we got so excited about him for that first game against Chester, everything's sort of fallen off a cliff a little bit, and I really do feel now like his time at Liverpool is nearing its end unless he can either turn it round in pre-season or we just don't find a suitable suitor for him in this summer transfer window and just decide that actually it's better to keep him on the books and have him as an option in those kind of League Cup and early stage FA Cup games. And then finally, out of the first half players, you've got Shea Ojo, who I thought was the shining light of that front three. I think his wing play is really, really good. You know, the way he harasses defenders and then takes them on as well. He's a proper traditional winger in the way that he moves the ball around, in the way he dribbles, and also in the way that he kind of tries to bring not just his fullback, but midfielders into play and the striker that's next to him into play as well. And I think the only thing that's missing from him again is just a bit more quicker decision making. You know, whenever he gets into the box and whenever he looks to pick a teammate out, he just takes a couple of extra touches. It's kind of what Raheem Sterling did early on in his Liverpool career, where he just needs to move the ball quicker and trust his instincts a little bit more, I think. And if he does that, kind of like Curtis Jones with the final ball thing, he could become a really, really good player for Liverpool because, you know, once he gets into the box, if he makes the right decision and he has the time to do so, he looks like a player. He's got a decent shot on him. He's good at playing it to his teammates as well. So I just think he needs to be a little bit quicker, trust his own ability a little bit more, and he could be a real force for Liverpool. So the second half then, again, it was just more of the same, really. The team kind of played the same slightly static football where there never really felt like there was intelligent link-up play between them. I think one of the problems was that the players were just spread too far apart. I think with the way that Bury defended, especially in that second half, they did start to sit off Liverpool a lot more as I think legs started to tire amongst their players. I think Liverpool's players just spread a little bit too far apart to try and find spaces, to try and stretch that Bury defence, where what they really needed to do was what they did in that first half against Tranmere, where they kind of condensed the play, they passed it around quickly, they were getting those triangles going on both flanks, and that led to goals for Liverpool in the game against Tranmere and the game against Chester as well. And it was just a little bit disappointing to see that missing against Chester, because like I said, while you can almost put it down to the randomness of the starting 11s, if the players get close enough to each other, they are still able to read each other's runs, read the play, and understand what their teammates are going to do. So a little bit disappointing there, but we know that Jurgen Klopp will have a word in the players' ears. He will obviously come out after the game and say that he's pleased with it. He's not going to lambast them in front of the press over a pre-season friendly, but I think there'll be a lot of words in a lot of players' ears to try and just get them to step up a level a little bit now, because we've had the early warm-up games where it is all about fitness, and as we go on, it is going to start becoming more and more about the tactical side of things, about the link-up play, and about actually being able to get results in games. So going through that second half team, Kamil Grabara obviously comes on for that last half hour for Loris Karius. It was a shame almost that Karius doesn't get the full 90 minutes. I think I would have liked to see him go all the way through the game because you just get to see more of the player. But I thought Grabara did do well and looks quite promising. Again, doesn't have too many saves to make. There is an offside goal, which, if you ask me, didn't actually look offside. I think Liverpool have got away with one there. We could have been walking away with a 1-0 win against Bury, which would have been a little bit demoralising this early on in the campaign. But I don't think he has much chance for the offside goal. It is pretty much straight in the corner, so you wouldn't expect him to save it anyway. Apart from that, he does make a few nice catches as well. There's one where the ball dips a lot as it comes into the box, and it looks like it could be a really difficult one to deal with, one that he could potentially fumble, and he just takes it in like that and almost swallows the ball up. And I thought it was really nice, and generally his play looked very confident for a lad who is 18, 19 years old. 19 years old he is, so there's still a lot of development to be had there. We've heard good things about him from the goalkeeping coach and from people inside the club, so you never know, he could end up being a really, really useful option for Liverpool in future between the sticks. And then the defenders, Phillips and Clavan, the centre-backs, nothing to report, to be perfectly honest. They had absolutely sod all to do. There wasn't that much defending to do, and when there was, it was just counter-attacks that they got ever so slightly caught out on, and you can almost put that down to a lack of mental focus in these early games. Apart from that, they were just passing it around fairly nicely. I thought Gomez lacked a lot of dynamism going forward. Obviously, he's playing in that right-back slot where we're not really expecting him to play. We're expecting to see him more in that centre-back role, but I think with the lack of good performance performances really that we've seen so far from Klein this season, there is almost a possibility that should Trent Alexander-Arnold get injured, we might even go back to playing Joe Gomez at right back just because we might prefer him over playing Nathaniel Klein in that role. And I just thought the way he got forward, he didn't look as good. He wasn't getting the ball in the box. He wasn't making the kind of exciting runs that we've seen from players like Camacho at right back so far in this preseason campaign. So that was disappointing. And I think a lot of the lack of attacking impetus from the side today in that second half could actually be put down to the fullbacks as well, because I thought Robertson didn't really do much going forward again. Whenever he tried to get forward, he wasn't receiving the ball as much. He was receiving it in places that he wasn't really wanting to, and he never really looked like he was getting the kind of balls into the box that we are expecting from Andrew Robertson at this stage. However, the defensive side of his game was good. We saw him get back for a Berry counter-attack where he gets back really well. He shows his physical side as well. That's something that's been really important from Andrew Robertson in the past, is that when he needs to, he almost defends like a centre-back. He's got the strength, he's got the intelligence, he's got the ability with his feet to actually drive players away from goal, and we saw that in that one-on-one situation where he uses his strength. He then just puts the ball away, and while it does then come out for another Berry chance, Robertson basically did all he could. So it was at least nice to see the defensive side of his game come to the fore there. With the midfielders, I thought Chiravella again had absolutely nothing to do defensively, and I would have expected a little bit more of him going forward. Like I said, with the way that Berry pushed back towards the end of the game, I would have liked some deep line playmaking or even some runs from deep to actually get at the box. The kind of stuff that we've seen from Fabinho in the first few games, I would have liked to see that from Chiravella, but he didn't really offer that much. Maybe it's just because he's been playing centre-back over the last few games, so he's not used to having to show that kind of tenacity further up the pitch. But again, a little bit disappointing if he does want a future at Liverpool, whether it is just on the fringes or even in the under-23s, he's going to have to show a little bit more exciting play going forward. And then you got Keita, who I thought, you know, he was his usual stylish self, he was his usual tenacious self. He got forward reasonably well, and I think the only problem that he really has at the moment is I think he just needs better options, because there were moments when he was driving into the box, when he was really getting at the opposition and he was winning the ball back in clever areas, and he just didn't have the options in front of him. You know, it was a very makeshift front line. It was a very young, inexperienced front line as well. So you'd hope that once, you know, Mane and Salah arrive for the US tour, once Shaqiri comes in as well, he'll have some better options in front of him, and hopefully we'll start to see Keita really become a creative force for Liverpool. And then I thought the same problems arose with Lallana, really. Again, he tried to orchestrate attacks. He tried to essentially play as a number 8. He was a little bit forward than Keita for most of the game. But I just think he needs a little bit more quality in front of him, because again, whenever he looked to get his head up and make the final ball, there just weren't the players, and they weren't making the right runs as well. There were a couple of moments, you know, but it was very much sporadic. I think Woodburn has one chance on goal where he curls it quite nicely. There's some good link-up play that does involve Lallana playing just off of the edge of the box. So that was nice to see, but I'm just hoping that once those senior players come in, we'll get to see a little bit more. Because like I said, I'm expecting Lallana almost to actually start in that midfield 3 on the first day of the season. So it is important that he shows his ability as a creative force in the side. And then the forwards, Solanke, disappointed again in this game, to be perfectly honest. I thought he didn't offer that much as a focal point. If he's going to play central to that attack, and if he's not going to drop deep and be a creative force like we have seen him do in the past, and like we have seen from Sturridge so far this preseason, he needs to have the kind of movement, and he needs to be an imposing figure to actually give those players someone to aim for in the box. I know, like I said, people weren't really getting crosses into the box. We didn't really see that much from the fullbacks, and the wingers were trying to cut inside and play a little bit deeper more than anything. So he's never really going to get those balls in from wide. But I think just the way that he played, he wasn't really giving them someone to aim for, and that's what it comes down to for players like Keita and Lallana. When I say that they just need someone to aim for, they need someone to pass to, they need players that they can provide a service to as deeper line playmakers. So that was disappointing from Solanke. I think the lad does need a goal soon, because as those more senior players come back and as we get closer to the first game of the season, I've said before that Firmino might actually miss out that first game against West Ham. So it is a huge opportunity for those fringe centre forwards to actually force their way into the team on that first day of the season and actually ask questions of the manager. And at the moment, Solanke and the rest of them, to be honest, aren't really giving the manager any questions to ask at all. So yeah, just needs a goal, to be honest, to get himself off the mark, and then hopefully things will progress from there. I thought Camacho, the kid's not a winger. He has been promising so far this season. I've said already in this video that in the past, in that right back slot in the first 2 games, he's looked really good. He's got forward well. He's linked up with a winger as well. winger really well, but I just think his final ball and the way when he gets into the box, which to be honest he doesn't do enough, is still lacking from his game. So I think he's better off as a right wing back or as a backup right back, potentially even, like I said, when Trent gets injured, if we don't fancy Klein and if we don't fancy moving Joe Gomez over to that right hand side, Camacho could actually be a really good option for Liverpool. So disappointed with the way that he played, disappointed he didn't get into the box enough, but I'm hoping to see more of him playing as an actual right back later on in this preseason campaign. And then finally, Ben Woodburn, I mentioned that he gets that chance, he gets a shot on goal, which did come from some quite nice play and some quite nice link up. It was nice generally to see him a little bit further forward. I think that was more, necessitated by the availability of players. Jurgen Klopp has said that Harry Wilson didn't play in this game because he is seeking a loan move away, and it looks like that's going to get finalised fairly soon. I think if Wilson's available today, he probably takes up the part in the team that Ben Woodburn took up today. But it was nice to see him get a little bit further forward. Obviously, we were introduced to him as a goal threat, as a striker, and the most withdrawn we ever really saw him at first was in a number 10 role. But I just think he needs to threaten the goal a little bit more. If he's going to play in that kind of role, if he's going to actually force his way into the first team, he needs to act as a goal threat. He needs to not just supply the other forwards, but he needs to be getting shots away himself and getting into the right positions to do that. And I thought there were a few moments where he was just too far out wide and giving himself too much to do, where he had too many defenders to actually take on, or he was too far deep and actually in a more creative role, where playing in that left wing role in this Liverpool team, you actually want to be getting at goal and trying to score. So a little bit disappointing in general, to be honest, with the performance. Like I said, there wasn't that much cohesion, but hopefully that will come as the preseason campaign goes on. And obviously a lot of them are young lads, a lot of them are lads who haven't really had that much time under Jurgen Klopp before. They've obviously been trained to get used to his methods in the under 23s, but it is obviously a very different beast doing it for 90 minutes or even just 45 minutes with Klopp as your manager amongst those first team players. So hopefully we see a little bit more from the players over the coming days. Unfortunately, I am going to miss the Blackburn game, which is a shame. There'll be no post-match video for that, but there will be some more videos between now and then, and I'll hopefully be back for post-match reactions for the US tour. Until then, thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then why not give it a like, hit that subscribe button there if you're around here, check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you soon for hopefully some more transfer news. Bye for now.